Everybody, brace yourselves. Wait for it. My colonoscopy prep. Yes, we're going there.
Now we're talking about colonoscopies.
Sorry, everybody. And I can't help but wonder, how much do we rehearse something that hasn't happened? And in rehearsing it, it's actually affecting our present experience.
And the worry, my roommate is not going to accept me. I am that stereotype of the roommate that you don't want to have. The Southern Californian queer boy with the blonde spiky tips, the rainbow flip-flops, and board shorts, and puka shell necklace because it was the 90s.
I know that look.
Am I going to find my people?
I'm rehearsing what I anticipate I'm going to feel in a couple weeks when I literally say goodbye to my daughter. I'm creating that sadness, that distance now because of my rehearsing it.
Even the rehearsing becomes distance between you and another person or an event. Zach, stop.
Did that make it suck any less? So why rehearse the suck? Right?
Right. Welcome to Simply Enough. This is Zachary and Elizabeth, and thanks for tuning in.
If you're liking our podcast, we'd love it if you'd share with your friends and family.
And then rate and review to raise our visibility and spread the message of enoughness.
We love you, and remember, you are simply enough.
Just as you are.
Period.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Simply Enough. I'm Mr. Zachary Linnert.
And I'm Dr. Elizabeth Ignacio.
To our new listeners and viewers, thank you so much for joining us. We're so glad you're with us today. To our listeners and viewers, our many viewers, because our viewership keeps increasing, which is crazy.
Thank you.
To those of you that have been with us, thank you so much for being a part of our Simply Enough journey.
And this journey is creating a community for which I'm so grateful, because let me tell you, I need community right now. I need to, I need a group hug, everybody. We are batch recording. For those of you watching us, Zachary and I are in the same clothes as last episode because we're batch recording. Why? Because I'm at a milestone of my life in that we are bringing our oldest child away to college. And my heart is both bursting and breaking at the same time. And I am a emotional person by nature. Anyway, it's so funny that though I might be an academician and, scientific surgeon, professor, and I'm supposed to be cerebral, I am actually more heart than head. And those that know me know that about me. I am a crier. By nature, especially when it comes to my kids. My fellow parents of my daughter's classmates, many of us have been together since kindergarten, and I am known to be the crier, even in wonderful occasions like second grade play and fifth grade Families Are Forever play, and I'm just a sentimental girl at heart. So people have commented out of love and humor, asking how am I holding up? Because this is emotional time. And Zachary, you just asked in our pre-game warm-up, our pre-podcast locker room talk, you so kindly and graciously asked how I was. And I, as you know, answered, I'm doing okay. I know I'm going to be sad. My daughter knows I'm going to be sad. Everybody knows I'm going to be sad. But I'm not going to live in that sadness right now. I know it's going to be there. I know it's going to come. And I know it's probably going to be bad, but I'm not going to bring it into my present experience now. I'm not going to rehearse that sadness. I'm not going to rehearse that angst and that feeling of separation when I say goodbye to her. That will happen when it happens. And I will feel what I feel when that happens. But right now, I'm not going to rehearse that. Mm-hmm. And we talked about that, about, rehearsing feelings or rehearsing worry or rehearsing anxiety or rehearsing fear before it happens, which can prolong an experience. Mm-hmm. And so I was just wondering if we can use that as kind of a launching pad in terms of exploring our tendencies, especially those of us, or myself, I won't include you, Zachary, but the control freak surgeon that I am, feeling and having to need and want control over things ends up actually kind of perpetuating and prolonging feelings that don't necessarily have to be felt in advance. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just you starting off, and maybe it's because Gracie's going to college and you were so honest about where you are. And thank you for sharing that with us. I immediately got back to what my entrance into college was like. And I've talked very openly about being a queer person. And I knew prior to going to college that I knew that about myself already. And I went to the University of Notre Dame, which doesn't have the best reputation for being one of the most accepting institutions for queer people. And I had a tremendous amount of worry going into my time at Notre Dame that every person I met was going to be anti-LGBTQ, and that everyone that I met was going to not accept me for who I was. And I rehearsed that again and again and again. And what was interesting about that is then I went into a place of like, I am that stereotype of the roommate that you don't want to have, right? That roommate, my roommate was from Fargo, North Dakota, and he played hockey, and he gets the Southern Californian queer boy, and with like the blonde spiky tips and the rainbow flip flops, and he wears board shorts and like the puka shell necklace because it was the 90s, right? Like, right. I was the
I know that look. I know that look.
Right? And he was the cliche too, Fargo, North Dakota, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
And I immediately went into that place of like, my roommate is not going to accept me. And the worry of like, am I going to find my people? And so you very vulnerably just sharing about where you are with your daughter, I was immediately taken back to that place of freshman year, going to the University of Notre Dame with so much rehearsed anxiety and rehearsed worry and fear about what I had heard about the school, what I knew about myself, and how they didn't necessarily connect or jive or make me, I didn't go into it feeling like this was necessarily going to be the safest place for me.
Did you feel that changed your experience by having rehearsed that fear and rehearsed that anxiety? Did that change your experience, at least initially?
Definitely. So there were a number of like get to know you activities. They're all like fabricated icebreakers that are meant for you to meet a friend or whatever. And I very distinctly remember not saying anything, like just literally sitting in those rooms, either at my dorm or in the big hall where now we're in subgroups, and like barely even introducing myself, which I can be an introvert, but I also brought so much into it that I was completely closed off and didn't want to talk to anybody because I assumed that rejection was going to be real. Like I assumed that all those fears and everything were definitely true. And luckily there was a person that I met that I still was friends with when we graduated, said like, you're not the person I met that first week of school. And it definitely changed my experience. I was way more closed off and guarded because everything that I had rehearsed, I assumed to be true.
And did you almost feel feel rejected even by people who weren't rejecting you? Did you actually almost like experience rejection even though you weren't being rejected?
Yes, definitely. Somebody that just wanted to maybe go sit with somebody else, I'm like, see, they're leaving because they don't want to talk to me. Like, like I even interpreted whatever typical actions would have happened as if that was a reflection on the rejection that I believed was going to happen.
Yeah. And exactly. And that's why I am consciously, I'm not at all suppressing or denying. I know it's going to be hard, and I know I'm going to be sad. And Gracie laughs at me with all of the compassion she can muster. I'm being ironic and facetious because she knows that I'm going to be sad. And I'm not going to also lie that out of nowhere, without perseverating on it, out of nowhere, I will have tearful moments now in advance, but it's not because I am dwelling on it and living in it. And that's because I've made a conscious choice of, I am not going to experience distancing myself from my daughter now while I'm here with her. But there was a day or so when I was actually distancing myself because I was already feeling sad and almost living and abiding in that sadness to the point of it was almost like, leave me alone, I'm so sad. But then I'm realizing, well, okay, but I'm experiencing that distance and I'm experiencing that separation, and I'm creating that because I'm rehearsing what I anticipate I'm going to feel in a couple of weeks when I literally say goodbye to my daughter. And that's I'm experiencing that sadness and I'm experiencing that distance, and damn me, I'm creating that sadness and I'm creating that distance now because of my rehearsing it unnecessarily. That it's we mentioned this in a prior episode, but it literally is what Mark Twain said, which is, I've experienced, many bad things in life, few of which actually happened.
Mm-hmm.
It's so much in our head that we then create it and it hasn't even happened yet. But yet we are now truly experiencing it and it hasn't happened yet because we're rehearsing too much, really. On a total random flip, we're going to harken back to everybody brace yourselves, wait for it, my colonoscopy prep.
Oh.
Yes, we're going there. We are going there. So colonoscopy prep, it so happened that both my husband and I were scheduled for our first ever colonoscopy prep around the same time, within weeks of each other. And initially, I was going to go second. So my husband was going to go through the colonoscopy prep and colonoscopy, I should say. And then my appointment was actually scheduled for like the week later. So he was going to go through all of it before me. But it then turned out that we had to reschedule. So as to not lose the appointments, we just switched. So my colonoscopy was actually going to be first, and he was then to follow. And we have the same physician. And so the office sent us separately, but simultaneously, because our appointments are so close to each other, we got the instructions for the colonoscopy prep, which that's a wonderful email to receive. That's a winner. But the funny thing is, it was very interesting to observe that though we were reading the exact same thing, right? Because it's the same instructions from the same office. So we were reading the exact same thing, but the kind of reaction to the email was quite different. And I'm going to say not better nor worse. I'm just going to say different.
Different, right.
So upon my receiving the email, I'm reading the instructions. And of course, as everybody can imagine, the type A control freak surgeon that I am, I'm already, writing down the step-by-step fashion. And then I'm going on the internet for like added hints and added tips to make the colonoscopy prep smoother, no pun intended. The process, not the actual prep, and little, tips here and there of again, how to make the process smoother. And it just, for me, it was just kind of a thing to be tackled. And it is what it is, because the end game is that I got to do it. I got to have the colonoscopy prep. The end game is that colonoscopy is a good thing to do and a good thing to undergo, because at the end of the day, it's cancer, no cancer. Like, that's a very worthwhile endeavor. And so it is what it is. And the contrast, and again, no better, no worse, but just his interpretation of the instructions were, again, no pun intended, how shitty everything's going to be. This is going to suck. Oh my God, I have to drink what? And, I'm going to be, feeling like this. And we have to be near the bathroom, for how long? And it was all about how it was going to suck, which I'm sure, having not at that point gone through it, either of us, of course it's going to suck. But there was definitely the difference, again, no better, no worse. I'm just saying the difference of the element of it is what it is, got to do it, let's get her done, versus how much this is going to suck and what a, nuisance this is going to be and what a pain this is going to be. And oh my God. And I noticed that it actually kind of weighed on him, the prospect of having to go through the prep itself, not just the colonoscopy, but the prep itself. It actually weighed on him. So it became kind of a topic of discussion here and there, whereas it had already entered my mind and kind of left my mind because it was just kind of a checklist. It is what it is. So it didn't really affect my experience leading up to the prep. And then during the actual prep, without getting too graphic, everybody, I mean, the prep was just kind of like, oh, it is what it is. Is that all that it is? Okay, I've got everything squared away. I've got my setup, and and it was just kind of, oh, is this all it is? Is that all? And then the colonoscopy itself was, oh, is that all? And then it's done. Whereas the lead up to the prep was not as enjoyable. Not that it's enjoyable, everybody, but it was more of a deal leading up to the prep for my husband. And then the actual prep itself was just, there were more stories about his prep. Like I didn't really talk about my prep much other than like, oh, actually it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. So the actual experience of it, I think was different. And I just can't help but wonder, in other situations in everyday life, how much do we rehearse something that hasn't happened? And in rehearsing it, it's actually affecting our present experience when the actual experience hasn't even happened yet. And if the flip side of that is, if how we approach something and rehearse something can affect us negatively, well, the flip side of the same coin is, well, actually, we can therefore rehearse how we look at things positively so that the experience comes out different.
I love that we on this podcast, we go a couple episodes ago, we were talking about pimples and excising pimples, and now we're talking about colonoscopies from
sorry everybody
from pus to poop, but But you said a great word earlier when you were talking about your situation with Gracie. You used a word, the distance, right? And you talked about the distance between, in this case, her and you, but also the distance, I would imagine, between yourself and the potential, it is what it is, or the positivity that could come out of it. And the reason why I say that is because I think we all have had that one night or that one event, a wedding, an anniversary or something, where we're like, I don't want to go. I don't want to go because it's going to be blah, blah, blah. It's going to be this, it's going to be that, but I know this is going to happen. And then there's going to be there and so on. And then you come home and what do we always say? I had the best time.
Yeah.
But
or at the very least, well, it wasn't that bad.
It wasn't that bad. Right. But I imagine there was some point in that moment or in that event where you got out of your head a little bit.
Yeah.
But to your point about who you are and the rehearsing and the over rehearsing impacts your experience with it. How much of that event, let's say it's a wedding, how much of that wedding did it take before you kind of got out of your head? You got away from that rehearsing, you got away from your own thinking and then just were, and then could experience it. I know I've had plenty of those times where I've come back from something I was like, I'm really not looking forward to that. I don't want to do it. And then sure as shit, when it's done, I'm like, oh, that was okay. Or I really had a good time. Yeah. I think we all have had that.
And think about that, right? Like literally, let's pretend the wedding is coming up in a week. And every day of that week leading up to it, this is going to suck. And I really don't like the people there. So you have lived that wedding and you have experienced that wedding for those 7 days, however many times those 7 days leading up to the actual wedding, as opposed to it is what it's going to be. We'll find out when I'm there. Rather than rehearsing that moment, we're just going to live in that moment when I'm in the moment. And that's the being mindful and present and open to whatever experience. And honestly, too, let's also be honest. And sometimes it's true. So sometimes it was, well, damn, that sucked. And God, that was shitty. And I wish I didn't go and that kind of stuff. But at least you're feeling that right then and there in the moment as it's happening, as opposed to reaffirming, fine, you're right. Great that you were right, that it sucked. But how did that serve you? Was that helpful to you days in advance, knowing that it was going to suck? Did that make it suck any less just because you were right that it did suck? No, it didn't make it suck any less. So why rehearse the suck? Right? No, right. It's funny. It's funny that like, oh, well, if I arm myself and if I can say that I know and tell myself after, see, I told you so it was going to suck. Okay. Is there any benefit to the see, I told you so to yourself or to whoever might that have been that dragged you to the party? No. Did you get any bonus point? No. So what is the point in being right about something that you rehearse?
Oh my God, you're so
Just
right.
be in the moment. There was no benefit even in being
no
right about
benefit.
it. So even if the moment, even if the party, even if the event, even if the colonoscopy, even if the colonoscopy prep sucked, was there any benefit to being right about the fact that it sucked by rehearsing it
Right.
ahead of time? There's no gain there, right?
Right. It seems so obvious, but yet at the same time, I've never thought about it that way.
Right.
And
you know, back to dropping off my daughter.
Yeah.
I'm acknowledging right now that I know that it's going to suck, but I'm not going to live it and I'm not going to experience it every single day, so that when it actually happens, I'm going to be like, see, I knew it. I was right that this is going to suck. I'm going to be crying like that no matter what. Why do I need the validation and the affirmation and live through it every day up to it, so that I can say, I told you so to myself? There's no benefit there.
Right. And to your point about that, we bring that into it. I know, to share a quick story, there was a very difficult parent meeting that I was going to have when I was a school leader. And well, let me say, the factors could have gone in a difficult way. Like, this was an upset parent about something that happened. And this parent was known to be very honest about what they were thinking and feeling. And also sometimes they were not shy about escalating it to the superior of the superior of the superior. And so all of that history meant that when I knew I had that call or that meeting with them on a Friday, that Monday I was thinking about it, Tuesday I was thinking about it, Wednesday I was thinking about it, and dreading it and regretting it. Also missing out on all of the great meetings I was having with kids or teachers and everything, because I was so busy rehearsing the meeting I was going to have. Yeah. And then at one point in the meeting, I had to pause myself, because I hadn't acknowledged that I was doing the rehearsing, that I was angsty. And we talked about this in a previous episode. Like, I brought so much into it that affected the parent that I was with. And I'm sure it was energy that they were receiving. Mm-hmm. So you're right. Yes. About like, even the rehearsing becomes distance between you and another person, or distance between you and an event, because that over rehearsing becomes something that now I assumed to be true. And I then made a reality. At some point I had to be like, Zach, stop. Like, they're being reasonable. You are putting that on them now, because you just assumed that they were going to be, and you told yourself they were going to be, and you told yourself on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And to your point, also beautiful point about how it's not even what you might be over rehearsing or missing out on relative to those people, those parents that you're dealing with, but it's all unrelated people too. You've had great you had opportunities to relish and be present and be mindful of great moments with the students, or with your fellow faculty, or with your husband, or with your friends. But when it becomes so all encompassing that you're rehearsing one particular event that hasn't even happened, how much are you missing out? And I am very cognizant of that now in this situation again with my daughter, which is multifold, meaning one, I don't want to be mopey to the point where, like I said, my daughter doesn't want to be around me and like feel, and I definitely don't want her to feel burdened and feel sorry for me. Like, she has to worry about my feelings when this is such a momentous, season of her life, and I want her to enjoy that. So for me to be mopey about it, I don't want her to have to worry about that. So that's about her, and seemingly this situation is seemingly just about me talking about her, but actually, to your point, there are others involved too, meaning I also don't want to be so mopey to the exclusion of my beloved son, or my husband, who he's also going through, I'm sure, his own feelings about, dropping off our daughter, and those are precious privileged moments as well. And I don't want to miss out on that by rehearsing what I'm gonna feel in 2 weeks,
Right.
To your point, it's about being present and being mindful in the moment. And whatever happens, que sera, sera, come what may, then let's deal with that in the moment. And there's one thing to be prepared, right? Like, in surgery, it's important for me to be prepared for anything and everything. And the mark of a truly good surgeon isn't when things go like clockwork, but you're prepared for when things go wrong. That's great. But I don't dwell, and I am not hampered by anxiety about what might go wrong. So one can be prepared by it, but not be hamstrung by the anxiety of it, the sadness of it, the worry of it. The moment comes, be prepared for the moment, but don't live that moment until that moment is to be lived.
Yeah. When you mentioned earlier that in the rehearsing, that can impact how we see something somewhat in a negative way, but we can also flip it in a positive way. I will say, to be really fair, there are times when I don't have an event that is coming and that there's a hard start on it, like a wedding or, saying goodbye to a child or going off to college. But in the rehearsing of a difficult conversation that I have to have with a friend, like maybe I've let a friend down and I want to let them know that I recognize that and I apologize and I want to make those amends, that the rehearsal and the belief about what's going to happen can actually inhibit me from actually calling them or doing the thing that I want to do to make the distance closer. Now, because there isn't like a deadline on it, it's up to me to initiate it, that the rehearsal actually can inhibit the coming back together and the rekindling of the friendship. When, to your point about thinking it positively, or at least just acknowledging it is what it is, like it's going to be a conversation in which, we need to come together as friends. I'm too busy rehearsing that moment, the icky moment, rather than seeing like the moment beyond when we're back to being cool with each other again.
Yes. Yes, exactly. So as much as we may rehearse, what if this negatively, you can also think of it differently of, well, what if it does work?
Yeah.
What if after the conversation, all is well? And then there is the thinking, what if versus the thinking as if.
Oh,
right?
Yes.
So you approach it as if it's all going to go well. Not that it's going to be an easy conversation,
Sure.
but you're going to approach it as if things will be well with an honest, mindful conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. But rather than over preparing for the, what if this goes bad? And what if I don't make the team? What if I get cut? What if I'm rejected? What if all this? What if you make the team?
Yeah.
What if you get the role? What if the friend forgives you? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And as much as we're even talking about the what ifs in terms of experiences that have not happened yet, and we're creating scenarios in our head, it's amazing how we can truly change the trajectory of the history of what's gone past. And what I mean by that, that's so cryptic. I have a patient, and this patient is how shall we call him, a pill. He is. So I have had actual experiences with this patient. So it's not just a preconceived notion, right?
Okay.
I've actually had experiences with this patient where he is literally one of the wealthiest people in our state, certainly on our island. And so he's one of the wealthiest people. And shall we say, he comes with that air about him.
Oh.
And he, as my patient, and while he's more than polite, he's quite kind and entertaining in his own head. When he comes, he's
aren't we all?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He comes with a certain air and requires a little bit more attention when he comes into my office, and he's it just takes a lot out of me. But I have to say that having had many experiences now with him, when I do see his name on the schedule, I almost like brace myself, and the staff braces themselves, and I'm just prepared for, okay, this is going to take a longer appointment visit. I'm going to have to say the same things multiple times just so that he can hear himself talk and ask the same question different ways, so I can give him the attention that he wants. So anyway, he had an appointment with me, but I had surgery in the morning. So I was in the operating room in the morning, but I knew that I had him in the afternoon. And without mentioning names, because I did maintain his privacy, I was just lamenting about how I have this patient that I got to see in the afternoon. And he's, though we bend over backwards, there's always more that he's always asking for, a little bit more and that kind of stuff. And one out to the credit of my scrub tech, who I adore, who keeps me grounded, he didn't chastise or anything. He just said, but this visit with him is going to be different, right, Doc? It's going to be a good one, right? And I sense what he was saying without without words. But I'm like, you know what? You're right. Yes. This afternoon, he's going to be great and it's going to go well and he's going to be grateful and he's going to be happy and it's going to be easy peasy, kind of cut and dry, appointment. And not only that, it's actually even going to be pleasant. It's going to be fun. Because again, this guy's not mean and he's not rude at all,
right.
But it's just, it's never an easy appointment. But this time I'm like, yeah, not only is it going to be easy, it's actually going to be like fun and pleasant. And so that is the energy that I walked in, and that is the way that I approach, like, no matter what he says, no matter whatever he does, it's all going to be good with me, because I'm going to see it as, oh, this will be a fun time. And I'm not going to belabor the moment. And sure enough, he was grateful. He was pleasant. The appointment was shorter than his others without his feeling shortchanged. It's not like I made it shorter. He just felt very content and satisfied and jokester. And it was a different appointment. And I couldn't help but wonder, number one, how much in the past have I brought myself begrudgingly? And so that created that experience. And then second of all, also just, how the universe is, in my predicting and behaving as if all will be well, that is exactly what manifested.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And thank goodness for that scrub tech too. Did you go back and say, hey,
I did. I told the team. I told the team. I said, guess what? It was, all was well. As you said, as you declared, it was manifested that way.
And look, we all have that meeting, that weekly meeting that we all dread, that we hate, and yeah, maybe this week, listeners, that meeting that you just, with your boss or with the team or whatever, that work thing that you experience that is like your patient, maybe take a little hint from the scrub tech. Today's going to be the good one. Or
as opposed to, what if it goes bad? Behave as if it's going to go great.
Yeah.
What if it goes bad? What if it goes great?
What if it goes well?
Yeah.
I like that. I can say, because it just this week alone, there were 3 things that I had to prepare for that I kept thinking. I played the first grader what if game to our teachers and our parents that have had 6 and 7-year-olds. That they love to play the, well, what if this, what if this, what if this, what if this, what if this? And then, we as adults, we start to do it ourselves. And I am now recognizing that I was guilty of the over rehearsing. And I also think, and you've reminded us of this in the past, I think there's also an opportunity to just say, I'm afraid of this, or I'm nervous of this.
Yeah.
And that it's okay. That's okay. I'm not thrilled to go to this wedding, or I'm not thrilled to go into this meeting. You know what I mean? Rather than the rehearsing of the blah, 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 but rather than just putting it out there, I'm not excited about this, and honor that. You know what I mean?
And then be okay with it. And then switch your focus to something else.
Yeah.
As opposed to, I dread it. And I'm going to, I bet you this is going to happen. And I bet you that's going to happen. So now you're experiencing that going to happen moment. Yeah. And whether it does happen or not, you've now lived it how many times?
Yeah.
To what benefit?
Well, you just said it. You said, I bet you this is going to happen. Why is that the bet that you want to win?
Exactly.
Why?
And that's where, in training the kid in the what if game with the kids, and actually as adults, we have come to be trained to think in preparation of what if. And evolution wise, we have literally evolved to be protective and think ahead of what if the tiger can get me? What if the dinosaur is going to eat me? But if we can reframe with our neuroplasticity, change our brain network to think, what if it goes well?
Yeah.
It takes just as much of effort to think of what ifs of bad as the efforts that it'll take of what if it does work out? What if it is good? What if it is fun?
And what I'm hearing you say is, and we've we've said this before many times, we're not pushing toxic positivity, but
Mhm.
what I'm hearing you say that helps me is balance. It's a
Yes.
balance of the narrative, of the rehearsing of the potential negative consequences or negative outcomes with the potential positive outcomes. And it's
Right.
just equaling that playing field. I'm just hearing,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. Helpful?
Well,
Help
very
me
helpful.
talking about my own thing. Help me. I'm okay. Let's bring it. We're good.
Nobody. Okay. I can't imagine anybody loves getting a colonoscopy. No, I mean, I really can't. So you're right. The baseline is it's not your birthday. Like you're not, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
It is what it is. Sending a child off to college. Like, yeah. Okay. That's a moment, but this balance, all will be well. All can be well. I think it is incredibly helpful. I think it's incredibly helpful. And I have something I'm going to this weekend. Honestly, that this entire week I've been like, I don't really want to do that. I don't want to do that. I really don't. It's going to suck. The weather's going to be bad. We're going to be outside. There's going to be a lot of people and it's going to be awful. The food's going to suck. And what if it's fun?
Yeah. And if it is, and you're, if it is, it is at that moment.
Yeah.
It's not right now where you are right now in Chicago at, X PM. So why are you right? Yeah. Same thing.
So thank you. Thank you for using this moment that you're experiencing to help us get this little reminder.
We're all in this together, right?
Oh my God.
This is all natural. It's natural. It's normal for us to want to control and want to prepare and want to defend. But though it's natural, is that healthy?
Yeah. And
so it's not even right or wrong. It's just, how is that serving you? Is it healthy to be doing that?
And in the choice that you are making to think about whatever it is that's going to happen, what is that choice doing to what is happening to you in the present? What relationships are impacted by that choice? What moments, what experiences are impacted by that choice for you as you are taking yourself and putting yourself in something that's going to happen in the future? What is happening in the present? Mm-hmm. Just a question.
All we have is the present. All we have is this moment. Yesterday happened. Tomorrow hasn't come yet. All we have is the present. I'll say this, at this very moment, at this very present moment, I am so grateful to you, Zachary. I am so grateful to our listeners and our viewers who are hanging with us, who are intrigued by us and joined us for today. I'm so grateful for my daughter. I'm so grateful for my family and for my friends who care about me and know that I am going to be a hot mess. And I'm okay with that. And I'm going to be that. And that's all good, but I'm not going to live it now. But I am grateful and cognizant of this very moment where I can see and feel the love and the support and the caring that I have in this present moment with you.
You're welcome. I love you so much.
Love you too. Love you, everybody.
And remember, everybody, you are simply enough.
Just as you are. Period.
Mwah.
Love you.
Love you too.